go back up to the agenda to item C,
Well,
tell us some stuff.
sure. That I just going to go over kind of a few different initiatives that we've been working on region-wide and then some individual things like that. Just to kind of let you guys know what we're doing, sometimes, it's kind of in the background. Sometimes there's, of course, grand announcements. We may have worked on the application, but that's not necessarily always well known. But nevertheless, the first thing I wanted to point out to you is to remind you guys whenever business member loan out to your small businesses if they may have, needs such as that. With those loan funds, I've got some brochures I'll leave you guys with that we just got revised. So there's several different financing options that we have from Southern Five's perspective to potentially loan money to your small businesses, whether it's a small amount of money or even, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, a couple $100,000 in loan monies. I know that we've made a few loans in the past year to some of your Union County businesses, and like I said, we've got more money. We'd like to get it out if that's something that they need right now. Most of those loan funds have interest rates between 4.5% and 5.5%, but those loans never change. There's not high closing fees or anything like that. I know sometimes it seems like I've been noticing recently with different kind of these loans that are online more so than at your local bank. They have a really great interest rate, but whenever you start getting on the backside of it, their closing costs are percentages of what you're borrowing instead of just a flat, years of fee, and then you end up with document fees and all these other kinds of things. At Southern, basically, most of our loans have a $100 application fee, $500 closing fee. Again, you can go up to 20 years on most of those opportunities, as long as there's land or buildings either being required or established or offered as collateral. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. Some of these programs are also designed to maybe assist a borrower $100,000 worth of risk, but we're really not comfortable taking 130. A lot of times we can come in and intertwine in there and maybe able to provide that 30%, take maybe a second position behind the bank. And some banks we actually share positions with, but to try to get them over that hump and become that gap financing that they may have needs for. So I just wanted to kind of remind everybody of those. And like I said, we have, some money there. Recently, we just completed in conjunction with IDNR and your ESDA and the U.S. Forest Service and the local fire Union County Wildfire Protection Plan. So we used a consultant and coordinated the efforts to this was kind of, this opportunity was out of the U.S. Forest, USDA with the Forest Service. And basically it's a plan that was put together so that, your emergency response has, some plans in order in the event that we would unfortunately have some large scale, especially on the forested lands within the national forest, a large scale wildfire issue. But like I said, this was a plan and they all have, everyone has copies of that plan at this point. So that if unfortunately we were, to try to mitigate the risk of what that could do for the community, it was kind of a planning, to help mitigate and hope that it's never something that has to be put into action, but it's there in the event that it is, to also discuss the other hazards there. We've been working on an initiative. This initiative is about 2 years old now, and it's called Create Bridges. And so Create Bridges, and some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. Basically, Create Bridges started with a grant that originated with Walmart Corporate. And then from there, Walmart Corporate has taken solicitations, and they take 2 or 3 a year of these solicitations to basically explore these options. In our case, the University of Illinois Extension was a successful applicant to the Walmart Corporate for this. And what this program allows, it allows funds to the University of Illinois Extension to help further study the create sector bridges, as the create sector industries, which are retail, entertainment, attraction, tourism, those types of sectors. So what we've done over the past couple of years, I co-chaired that group along with the Center for Workforce Development at Shawnee Community College's vice president. And basically we've established a 25-member steering committee, and a lot of those are, people in your local communities that may be a business owner in those types of things. And what we're doing is trying to look into different strategies. What the problems are most of these types of businesses facing. This was actually set before COVID. It's kind of interesting that we already had the group formed and all of those things. But like I said, we had some local, winery owners or local, in the hospitality sector. And like I said, the steering committee is made up of members from the 5 counties. And so ultimately, the results of what we've been doing with that is we did send out business retention and expansion surveys to all of the businesses that are in those sectors of our, businesses. We've also conducted employee surveys to also let those businesses, as a whole, not like we didn't say, here's your employee, here's what they had to say about you, but as a whole to see overall what are the problems that all of these types of sectors may be facing. What can we do to try to mitigate that? Of course, one of the major strong, issues, especially, is, lack of broadband. And of course, almost all of our businesses that have been involved in this process and the surveys have led us to, basically what is it that we need to focus on to help these types of sectors of our, of our businesses to ensure that they have the most amount of success that they could possibly have by being in our region. And also what can we do? Where are there gaps? What is lacking? And is it an overall marketing campaign, for these types of businesses? Just kind of trying to explore and evaluate with them what are they facing, and just so that we don't just assume we know what they're going through, that we actually have them actively as members to further discuss that. So that is still an ongoing thing that we also have going on. And then, of course, we still do all of our technical assistance with grants and loans and grant administrations, and a lot of those are, just different opportunities that may come out that we send to, if it's a grant for Bulletproof Vest, that we send it to the sheriff's office or to the local police chiefs or those types of things. If it's a, opportunity for parks, that, just all of those ones that we do as well. And then I'm currently working on trying to get an application together. Did you get an email from my office? May have been late yesterday.
I did get an email late yesterday, but I didn't see it.
Gotcha. I was just making sure. I didn't see them. I haven't seen them since then to ask. But so I'm working on an opportunity right now, and it's basically an opportunity through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. It's called RISE. Opportunity, what I envision this opportunity, if Southern 5 is fortunate enough to be able to, get an award in this opportunity, is this opportunity is basically the result of this opportunity is the development of a specialized economic development plan. So ultimately what I'm envisioning, if Southern 5 is successful with this application, is it would allow us to have some data sets and to have someone come in and actually tell us more about the sectors that we do have. Well, we know generalities, of course. I mean, I can tell you that in the 5-county region that the government sector and the education sector is the largest employers, holistically, and that's, unfortunately for our region, about 60% of employment. I basically am looking to, hope that this study gives results. It gives us dials that in further about more of our retail and where those, sectors are and what those sectors are made of, to also then in turn assist us as the Planning Commission in seeing what are some potentially emerging industries or some trends that we can see in those emerging industries, to ensure that, if we're, I have someone that comes to me and goes, we need some warehouse workforce development training. Okay. Is there a demand for that? Is that a sector that could be something that our region can support? And actually having data to back that up, so that whenever I put in an application for a potential business spec building to offer warehousing and also offer workforce development training to teach our young individuals how to work in a warehouse, that's actually what is really happening in the world, and not just what's just an idea that we think might be happening. For instance, I mean, if I put in an application tomorrow that says that we really think that it's going to be an emerging market in the village of Olmsted, perhaps I'll just throw them out there, thinks that they're going to be a leader in the aeronautical and aerospace industry. Okay, we probably know that that's not going to be a market in which they can tap, because they would have nothing on that line. But what I'm hoping this study does is dials in our industries and dials in the sectors of our industries to be able to guide us to what is showing as emerging markets or showing an increase or decrease in retail. Another part of this, because everything that's going on right now, of course, has the effect and the fallout of the financial issues with our small businesses and COVID, is the other thing that this also will do is it also would study what our makeup of our businesses and our employment numbers and some things like that look like prior to COVID, and then what we're seeing now to also help dial in which businesses are, we all have a good idea, and this is also still a very difficult task because it's there's still a lot of unknowns with that, and there's always going to be unknowns. Did the business close because of COVID restrictions, or did the business close because they already had poor management history and they were on the verge of closing anyway? But to look at it from more of a region-wide, bigger standpoint, to see if there are some gaps there, to see if there are something that we can do to help those businesses recover and be more resilient in the future against some things like this. The other side I see in this story is if we were successful with an application, if we were selected to be able to do this economic development plan, and with the focus on COVID, with the funding partner of that being the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, they also are the major granting source that has actually made grants available through this COVID pandemic to local businesses. So ultimately, I think their goal is to have these plans, and they've talked that then in the future, well, this is only planning, there will be implementation of strategies, dollars, so where something could be implemented, but also giving them the snapshot by looking at these several different economic development plans that they may have over the state of Illinois, might also make sure that they're targeting the businesses that we have discovered throughout this process have been hit the hardest, and that those businesses aren't left out because nobody even knew that they had an effect on them. So with that, I'm working on that application right now and hoping to send it out in a very short time frame. But I did provide, if you guys would like, I would like, if possible, a support letter for that application from, I'm trying to get one from each of our counties, and I sent that over to Angie, or my office was supposed to send that over to Angie yesterday, and basically the letter is just literally saying that, that the project when complete will allow businesses and individuals the availability to access resources to recover from the pandemic and build resiliency for future pandemics. But that's kind of the background on that. So with that, that's a lot of words, and I talk a lot really fast, but ultimately, I guess I'm also here to answer any questions that you may have about the Planning Commission, anything that we can do to help Union County, or if there's anything we can do to help anyone any businesses, any communities, anything that our needs that that we're faced with. So.
Anybody got questions? I do appreciate you coming, and I would like to try to set up some kind of quarterly or 6-month schedule.
Sure.
For you to come and
Absolutely.
update us. I don't know if all the commissioners are aware of it, but the county as an entity, and maybe you can explain it better to some of them that may not know. There's a lot of grants out there for you name it, whatever, and we obviously send people to you.
Sure.
As we should, but Union County itself as a government, it's my understanding that because we have reserves money, we don't qualify for a lot of grants.
For some of the grants, that is the case. I know with USDA Rural Development, there's a hard push, and that's unfortunate because USDA Rural Development is a great resource for small equipment upgrades. I mean, we do in that program, there's everything from, we've done dump trucks to communities. Now, it's a small grant because it usually only goes up to $30,000 if you have a disaster declaration. Sometimes you can squeeze $50,000 out of them. But that one is a really neat, I know we use it a lot, and yes, in Union County, what happens is whenever we get to digging through budgets and get to digging through audits and have to provide them with balance sheets and things like that, it gets into the nuances of there's so much in reserves that USDA Rural Development looks at it going, well, you don't need our help for a $20,000 mower
Yes.
for your
It's unfortunate.
And it is.
But on the other side, it's fortunate that we have reserves.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a whole lot better to have those reserves than to be a county, and I've been faced with this to say, well, we don't know where we're gonna find that $10,000 worth of match. But there are still all kinds of other opportunities that are not, like that. So for instance, don't know where you guys are with your sheriff's department. I know I had a meeting, with the sheriff not too terribly long ago, and the chief deputy. They came down to talk about some different opportunities that might be available for the sheriff's department. And so, like, I know in that case, those don't necessarily look. USDA rural development is realistically the biggest one. Now, some of them may have, I may have to figure out your poverty rates and your median household incomes and some of those kinds of things. But I know that we've been very successful recently with a Bulletproof Vest program that they have. And then there's another one that we've also had a lot of success with, which is the camera grants. So basically, and I don't know, some communities are completely against cameras, some it's mandatory wear, and don't know where that fits in. But ultimately, there's not a whole lot of money in those opportunities, but if you can grab, if you need cameras in the cars or you need body worn cameras and you can grab 4 or 5 of them, it's my suggestion. I know that I looked yesterday and the state budget that was passed gave a huge increase to that program. It's of my personal opinion that eventually I think it's going to be made level. And I would hate for a community, especially, I tell this especially to my small communities, I'd hate for you to have, 3 officers and, then it become mandatory and you guys are going, where in the world are we going to get $7,000? We got, for our full-time and our 2 part-time guys. The problem with, of course, all of it is it outdates so fast. And I know with discussing with my other communities, they have, had quite a bit of problem in keeping ones that will actually charge and stay charged and download in a fast enough rate for the next wear. But so those usually don't have anything to do with it. Any type of, right now there's a opportunity. I know that we just submitted an application on behalf of Anna to try to do some things with some water lines and things with the industrial park for the expansion of that. But there's always grant opportunities, and you guys are probably better positioned with your economic development activity versus some of my other counties. There's always money for the Economic Development Administration. The kicker to the money comes like this, usually. You got to have a business that's committed and wants to come to the county, but maybe there's a piece of infrastructure that's not in place. Maybe the road is not suitable for that type of, if there's someone's going to build a factory and employ 50 people, that road may not, or 20, or we've done it, sometimes small in different funding sources. Or you've got someone and they need increased water capacity or increased sewer. Once, that the lines are not big enough, they're big enough right now, but if that business were to come in, that we're going to have to increase those lines. A lot of those, Economic Development Administration has money for those. Delta Regional Authority, they don't have very much money. If we're talking about like Economic Development Administration, we're talking about up to $3 million. And sometimes we can co-award where there's 2,000 or 3,000, or 3 million coming from this project and 500,000 coming from this funding source, and some of those things. And right now there is open, the Delta Regional Authority just opened up their CDAP cycle, as they call it. Those projects have to be public, if you can do public infrastructure projects that benefit a business or any type of transportation. So if you've got a road that you really need to update it, you haven't got around to updating it, and it has businesses on there, and those businesses will say, yeah, I want to put my businesses into that road, but it's not suitable enough. But if you built the road, I would commit to bringing my 4 employees here. And the next person down the road says, well, I already got a business, and I'll retain my 3 employees if we could get the road. But if y'all don't do something with the road, then all of our businesses are going to have to close. Then that's an opportunity. Typically those opportunities, a lot of times they're pretty small scale. There's basically a little over $1 million that only gets dispersed through the southernmost 16 counties of Illinois, because that is the side of the Delta Regional Authority. But typically we can find projects that are $100,000, $150,000 kind of projects. or, even a little more or less, they usually have a really great time to be competitive because there's only 16 counties and they like to move the money around. They're not going to give all $1 million to this. They like to be that last piece of funding puzzle, where, okay, well, the county's going to commit to putting in 25% and, we're out of motor fuel tax, we're going to do X. And, we just need a little bit more money. They like that because then they can go back to Congress and say, well, we gave $100,000 and they made $1.5 million, or in this case, let's say like a $500,000 investment from the community, but the business is going to come in and they're going to make a $2 million or $5 million investment. So our 100,000 spurred this in investments. Those are open right now, and those typically close at the end of June, beginning of July timeframe. That's usually every year they try to come out to that time. But ultimately, like I said, those can actually be used for a lot of different things. The kicker that I always tell places is over 50% of the money has to go to tier 1 projects, but typically they want to fund what they call tier 1, which is infrastructure, public infrastructure or transportation infrastructure that benefits economic development, that is lined out and is secured by participation agreements. A lot of times we have some issues though, because a lot of the businesses don't want to put that participation agreement. They do not want to sign that participation agreement because basically it is a callback agreement that says if you were building a road just for them, that they're going to create 5 jobs, they're going to retain, or create 10 jobs, and they're going to make a $1.5 million investment. And then we have to then come back to them and go, well, we're not trying to get in your business, but, can you give us the deets on how you did make that $1.5 million investment? Whether, and, sometimes you can make it very great. Well, we spent $300,000 on personnel. Okay, I don't want to see your personnel records, but, but in the history of the DRA that has been around, it was enacted by Congress in 2000 and started making grants in 2002. I have never seen that happen. Never seen it happen with something that just happened to fall through. I mean, we have done where everybody was on the line, everybody was signed on the line, we thought it was a go, we made the infrastructure improvement, and then the business backed out for whatever reason. I've never seen them go after the business or go after the community. Now, they can, but I've never seen, I don't think that they're necessarily in that business. I know in that program, like last year, we've been very successful. Like I said, I feel we have, we typically throw up a couple projects a year. In the past 3 or 4 years, we've had them funded, all of them funded, as long as we keep it in the wheelhouse. If we go asking for $4 million, they're, no, they're not going to fund those, but we try to pick what is in their wheelhouse. Like I said, last year we did an application. There also comes in, and this may be more interesting to you guys, there also is typically opportunities there for flood control. So like flood pumps, levee work. I have wrote, so we get $1 million in Illinois, and all the other states get a proportion based on their population. There's then another fund that is called the Critical Infrastructure Fund. And that has like $20 million, but that's broke up by any of the DRA states, which are 8 states and 252 counties that go from St. Louis to New Orleans around the river mostly. But we have been able to secure bigger money if we can say that it has a regional impact. So like several years ago, we applied for $359,000 for the city of Brookport to replace Flatgate in their levee that was going to cause catastrophic failure if the levee breaks into the town. So those also, and I know that you guys have some issues in, so like we've done pump stations, like a pump station repair, okay, the pumps have, there's 5 pumps in there and there's only 2 that are working. Or a lot of times what we run into with a lot of our communities is they may all be working, but when they break, the parts are obsolete because they are sold. So just some different ideas there. And that's one of those ones that it touches a whole lot. You can do a whole lot with it. There's just only a little bit that scores super well. But it's a pretty easygoing thing. Those are also opportunities. We are considered the local development district for the Delta Regional Authority. So of course that's, we write all of those applications that the community wants us to. And it's just something that, we don't charge anything extra on those because they have most recognized. Basically, Delta Regional Authority only has a staff of about 7 or 8 to do what they do. So they look to each of the economic development districts in the regions to be the technical assistance partner and make sure that they don't have to answer the 100 questions from all of the people in the 252 counties in which they serve. But that's another opportunity there. And like I said, there are different ones that come out different times of the year and different ones that are, some of them I know that you may end up hearing that someone's called and asked if we were handling this type of grant. And some of them, the answer is no. Some of them are on a case-by-case basis, like when we, with the sheriff and the school districts, did the first school violence and prevention thing. That was a new one with us, but we had time available and we had staff available, and it looked like a great opportunity. A lot of times, though, on some of them that I will actually just straight say no, because they're opportunities that we've tried time and time again, and I don't feel like that we have the availability to compete. One of those, unfortunately, is with the Department of Justice and the community oriented policing strategies. They have cops hiring programs. They used to be awesome. 15 years ago, town had a cop, and it was because of that grant. I mean, we literally, and it would finance their salary 100% for year 1, and then 66% for year 2, and 33% for year 3. In the past 10 years, we still did them a few years ago, and I just felt like we were getting everybody's hopes up for an application that they started getting bigger and bigger and more known, and then started with a lot more rules and a lot more paperwork in order to get them. And so now it becomes, if you don't actually, have communities, well, we need a police officer. Okay, I understand, yeah, we do. So now this program is based on community-oriented policing strategies. What is your department doing as it relates to community-oriented policing strategies? Well, nothing, we just need a cop. Well, now they're making it have to be where there are whole plans of those types of things. So the ones that I typically are just straight out no, it's because we've tried them several times and had not had any results. Those also, some of those, and that one in just particular, you got to have we can't compete with, for a town that has 3 robberies a year with a Chicago that can put an application in and get 25 officers every year, and they do. The other thing is, a lot of times I'll look at the geographic region. In that program particularly, I've had it, it has not went to any small towns or small counties that in many years. I mean, if you're not a population in the, hundreds of thousands, no, I think Nashville was one of the smallest ones I saw last year. So. But we're also open to look at any opportunity that runs across your desk and anything that you guys see, and it's kind of like, hey, I wonder if this would work. We're glad to look over them. We're glad to explore that opportunity with you. We're glad to give you our input and our, guidance as to whether or not we would think it would be work, how we think that it could be made better, and then also, how we can help you write a quality application if that's what you want from us to in turn try to see if we can get funding for something. So, but and like I said, I'm always available to come anytime, anything that comes up. If anybody says, hey, well, let's ask her, I'm there. So, but again, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And if something comes up whenever I'm gone, I know you guys need to move on to other things, but ultimately, feel free to give us a call. And we have, like I said, several staff members that kind of have expertise in the different grants in which we administer, and we'll point you in the right direction. So,
I have a couple questions real quick. So, if we had, I know I've talked to you before about trying to get grants for like a building, and that's right now really hard to do, like for animal control. So the county board has allotted money for the building, but I know there's a lot of small grants out there for equipment, so maybe we could buy the cages and stuff like that. Do you guys handle, like, if we located some small grants for equipment?
Yeah.
Would you write it for us? Even if it's a $5,000 grant?
Yeah. And what we try to do is with us, we do have to generate our income. We're not, there's no grant that pays for the planning commission to exist. I mean, there's one little one that we get annually from economic development, but it's, 3/4 of our budget is derived from money that we make off grant writing or administration. Now, if it was a little one, and to us, it was no big deal. Sometimes we don't even charge, we'll just do it. Okay. If it's a little one and not very much money, we might charge $100 or $200, something minimal.
But you'll do things that are not your normal
that I don't send
grants.
out. Yes, I mean, because let's face it, most of the time you all will get more information on things than I do, and a lot of times that spawns, I may do your application this year and then next year open up and go, hey, I didn't know about this opportunity. Is any other community interested in it?
Okay. Second question, do you send a list of grants out?
We do not send a list of grants out. What we do send out is we send funding notices out. Do you get those here? No. Okay, well, I don't know who gets them. It may go to the county clerk.
Well, can I somehow let you know to add me to the list?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, okay, so I know if it's a sheriff's department grant, it goes to the sheriff's department. If it's a fire department grant, it goes out to all the fire chiefs. We try to, if it's a general grant, like the DRA, and it may just be that we haven't sent one recently because it seems like they're piling up on us all at the same time of year again. Like the DRA announcement, whenever it goes out, it should usually go to the county clerk, but I'll also add you on the list and make sure that, like I said, it'll just be on our letterhead and it says notice funding announcement, and we give kind of the details of what it is, when you need to let us know.
Yeah.
If you're interested, what it can kind of fund, and then call us if you want to explore it further.
Okay.
So,
Can you give us a quick update on Alto Pass,
which Alto Pass? I've got lots of projects going in Alto Pass.
the sewer?
Okay, the Alto Pass sewer. So Alto Pass was, we wrote an application to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to help them establish sewers in the town. They also received funds from the Illinois EPA for an grant loan combination with USDA Rural Development on that system. As of right now, it is my understanding that that project should, that all of you, I know that the environmental is cleared because we did their environmental, which is it's a 90-day process to clear that environmental. Basically, I think that that project is ready to go very, very shortly. It is my understanding that construction will begin within the month. That's my understanding, but I don't handle that in our office, but that's kind of what I've got from our staff person that does.
Are they also working with your office for the tourism up there for the hiking trails?
We've talked with them numerous times about everything from hiking trails to ADA accessibility to their city hall to making some more, I know that they have lots of school-age children that come to the Overlook and some of those kinds of things. Yeah, we talk to Alto Pass every couple of days about different options and different ways that we might have something that might work. So.
What about grants and funding for the demolition of properties that are well beyond repair?
Well, the Illinois Public, hold on, I got too many acronyms. IDA, the Illinois Housing Development Association Authority, I don't remember which one it is. So basically, they have a couple programs. One is called the Abandoned Personal Property Program, and we have wrote and administer those. One that came out with last year, and I think it's because they got a lot of extra money because of the CARES or Cures or one of those. They had one last year that was called the Stronger Communities Program. And basically what they did is they have one program called Abandoned Personal Property. They have another program called Single Family Housing Rehabilitation. And they took them and added them together. So one will tear down derelict houses that are residential. One will help. The grantee has to be a governmental agency, but we actually go into homes of people that meet the certain criteria and are actually able to, if you can fix the home for the amount of money that is allotted, will actually make repairs to the home to bring the home up to code and also ensure that the housing market doesn't, you know, if this house would have had a roof 10 years ago, 10 years from now, it's now on the ground and it's one that we're demoing. But, so usually with abandoned personal properties, you can get $30,000 or $40,000 out of that program. Like I said, we've done it in Olin, Caro, Vienna, and a few others that now with the Stronger Communities Program, they allowed you the opportunity to mix and match whether or not you wanted to do demo, housing rehab, and some things like that. Most of the communities that were awarded, and I had 2 communities that were awarded $175,000. And counties can be the applicant on that as well. But if you're the county applicant, you can only demolish in the unincorporated areas of the county. Otherwise, the applicant would need to be a city or a village. But we had two, and literally we were getting ready to launch the bid tour for the contractors to actually come in and demolish those. So basically, they mixed together the two programs, but then they gave the ceiling of the program a whole lot larger. I'm hoping that that happens again next funding cycle, and that it wasn't just a 1 year that they had extra money that they could do that. But that one actually does allow for, the inspection of the homes to make sure that they don't have asbestos and, things like that, the abating of the asbestos in the event that it has it. And then also the demolition and then the seeding and restrawing of it. Unfortunately, it can't be used for commercial buildings. And that is what most of my areas need, is the demolition of commercial buildings that are no longer viable. And so it doesn't do that, but it does clean up a lot of, derelict structures.
It would help us tremendously, because we're not looking at commercial buildings, we're looking at abandoned
Right.
mobile homes
Yes.
and houses.
Well, mobile homes are excluded.
So they won't, do you have anything that?
No. They figure that a mobile home can be taken off, and yes, it can be taken off, but it still has to be disposed of, and it still has all of these other, yes, it's not a fixture to the property. With items, they won't do anything with mobile homes, even in that housing rehabilitation program. Even if a mobile home has a block foundation, they still look at it as it is not fully sitting on that block foundation, even though it might look like it's sitting on that block foundation, the block foundation is not what's holding it up. So those even get kicked out, and those are getting ever increasingly tricky to see if something is considered in their eyes as a mobile home, or if it actually, a lot of times it looks like a normal standard construction home, especially the small ones, so. But I'm gonna leave these here with you guys again with any, and if you have any other questions or think of anything else, you just give me a holler.
Okay.
But again, if you guys have any questions or need anything, like I said, make sure that, we're just wanting to make sure that you guys know what we're working on and that we are. And like I said, I would appreciate it if you guys would support that application, because we're gonna put that in on a region-wide basis.
Very good, thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you
Thank
guys, have a great
you.
day, have a good weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of good information.
Okay, moving on, other business. Anybody have anything?
Max, I do. The voter purge is done, we're over with it. We have canceled 1,482 voters out of our list. So
How many?
1,482. So there's a lot of change. Like I told you guys, there'll be a lot of change in the voter registration. So a lot of moved out, but a lot of them, moved out in death. But then there was a lot that just weren't picked back from the mail and redelivered back to us. So I'm going to try to do a press release next week on, if you think you're registered and you did not receive your card, more than likely you're canceled. And so, we're at the beg and mercy of the mail at that point. We have went every route we could. If you had a P.O. box, we sent another one out to you, kind of thing, just to make sure that you got your card. So if you did not get it, please call and check it. Check with us and make sure. It's easier to register now, and we can definitely get you back active with the certain criteria, whatever needed. But tell anybody you talk to, if we're going to try to make a statement, I guess, of saying, if you're one of these people, we don't want to cancel you if we didn't, not supposed to, but it's just the way we have to do the procedure. So, yeah, if you guys don't mind, get the word out on that. I'm going to try to, like I said, get that out and going, and ask people, hey, did you get your card? Or you registered to vote? Because it's a lot easier to do that now than showing up the day of the election and wondering why you're canceled. So.
Okay.
But I do think there's a lot of those that needed to come out. I think that we've got,
I'm sure.
there's a lot of cleanup with it. So, but again, thanks to my staff, that's a big undertaking. So,
real quick before we adjourn, let's have a brief moment of silence, recognition of the students and the other individual that lost their lives in our county early history morning. Thank you. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. I'll second.
Commissioner Harville,
Yes.
Commissioner Fitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Toller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Yes.